Good evening and welcome to the City Council meeting of November the 24th, 2014. We're going to do this just a little bit different this evening. Ordinarily, we do the Pledge of Allegiance and then we have a moment of silent meditation. We will do that, but I think it's important on behalf of the council to say this has been a tough week for city people, certainly for our family. Two of the members that are normally here with us, we lost one, Marvin Kraut. And certainly our thoughts are with Jeff Kirkpatrick and his family on the loss of their son, Anthony. We want them to know that we are thinking about them, and so we will ask you. We'll probably do a little bit longer moment of silence for those this evening.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In accordance with LB 898, a copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted at the back of the chamber. The order of business of the City Council is as follows. The clerk will call the items listed on the agenda under public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on an item should come forward after the clerk reads that item. The applicant and those in favor should speak first, then those opposed. The applicant may then make one short rebuttal. Each speaker should begin by stating name, address, and whether you're speaking in favor of or in opposition to the item. Please spell your name for us. Testimony is limited to 5 minutes per speaker. After all public hearing, the council will vote on resolutions and items listed under third reading. On the second and last meetings of the month, immediately prior to adjournment, anyone may speak on an issue not on the agenda for that date nor planned for a future agenda. This is an open mic night. We call the first item, please.
I would mention that due to the Thanksgiving holiday, there will be no City Council meeting Monday, December 1st. Also, there will be no meetings the weeks of December 22nd and December 29th due to the holidays. We would request that those giving testimony to please clearly state your name and address and to sign in on the sign-in sheet laying on the podium. First items, public hearing consent agenda, items 1 through 18.
Real quickly, before we do that, item 35 will be going on pending at the behest of the developers. If you are here this evening to speak for that item, you may still speak to that item. We will have public hearing on it on the 7th, 8th of December. If you are here and you'd like to speak to it, you may. If you are here and you would like to leave, that's okay too, because we will not be doing that item this evening. Thank you. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Public hearing consent agenda, items 1 through 18.
Anybody who'd like to speak to this item? Staff questions? Next item, please.
Public hearing liquor resolutions, item 19.
We
vote
need
on?
to vote. Yep, we
Okay.
need to vote on them.
Consent agenda, items 1 through 5, introduced by Christensen.
So moved. Second.
Second by Carl. Discussion. Call the roll.
Cook.
Yes.
Emery.
Yes.
Eskridge.
Yes.
Fellers.
Yes.
Gaylor Baird.
Yes.
Camp.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Items 6 through 12 and 14 through 16 were introduced by Cook.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Trent. Discussion. Call the roll.
Cook.
Yes.
Emery.
Yes.
Eskridge. Fellers.
Yes.
Gaylor Baird.
Yes.
Camp.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Now on with item 19 under the public hearing liquor resolutions. Manager application of Christine M. Jackson for HCF Taco Company, number 1, doing business as Fuzzy's Taco Shop at 1442 O Street.
I'm in place of Christine. She had to go to a funeral in Alaska.
Okay. Those giving testimony are asked to come forward, raise their right hand for the clerk to administer the oath. So after the oath, witnesses shall state their names and addresses. Also, as an applicant or witness, you're not required to state for the voting session. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give is the truth as you verily believe it to be?
I do.
And you may state your name and address.
My name is Dylan Atterbury, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Big Red Tacos, which just bought HCF Taco. So,
Questions?
Well,
Go ahead.
okay. We delayed this item multiple times
uh-huh.
because no one has shown up. And then last week, we heard that there might be another application that's being submitted.
There's an application being processed by us right now. She was under the impression that she didn't need to show up because it was HCF's temporary operating permit, but she's also going to be on our operating permit. So she should have been here, and there was a miscommunication there, so she should have been here.
Okay. I guess we need to find out if we need to act on this, or maybe someone knows. We'll ask our, okay,
Okay.
yeah.
Is there anything else I can give you?
Yes.
Carl.
So you're currently in business?
We're
You're
currently
not
in business.
operating, okay, and serving alcohol?
Yeah, we got our temporary operating permit the other day,
Okay.
and we've already applied for our liquor license. We're just waiting on that, more or less.
Okay.
And Christine will be your manager?
Christine will be, we have full faith in her. She's been in our company for over a year,
Okay.
so.
John?
And again, I apologize if I misunderstood, but you're representing HCF Taco, or you have
The
purchased?
new company, Big Red Tacos LLC, we bought HCF Taco Company number 1. And that happened about a month ago, and it wasn't actually active till we got our temporary operating permit like a few days ago, so.
Okay, do we need to, I guess it was just on the short item, do we need to make some clarification, just so we know what entity is what here?
I'd say it's her application. They're stepping up for her, so I'd say we vote her on her application.
But I mean, the application says for HCF Taco Company number 1, and,
It would still be that until they get their liquor license to us, right?
Actual liquor license.
okay,
Okay.
thank you.
So we're actually approving it now. She'll come back up. I'm assuming she'll come back up on your license when it shows up.
She'll be
too.
popping back up on ours, so.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody who'd like to speak to this item? We always let everybody do a commercial for your establishment if you'd like to, since you have it new.
What was that?
I said we always allow people to do a commercial for their business if you'd like to.
Come down to HCF, or come down to Fuzzy's Taco Shop if you want. Okay? Yeah.
Okay. Staff questions? Next item, please.
Well, yeah,
I'm
staff
sorry.
questions for, or,
Okay,
we could have Conan come forward.
go ahead, Jonathan.
Given that last week we were discussing actually pulling this because it wasn't needed anymore, and now you ask us to hold it over wisely, and could you explain, do we need to pass this week, and what's coming forward then?
That would be my recommendation. It was just an unfortunate set of circumstances, the timing. When Christine had originally applied with the company under the old name, she knew that the current application was in process and knew that I actually had to do 2 investigations regarding her and the business's liquor license application. She would have been here today. I personally spoke with her. She felt terrible, and we just arranged for the chief operating officer to come down on her behalf since she was at a funeral. But she will be back in a few weeks again for her manager license.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
And we will actually get to see her in a live body. Okay. I'm a little nervous because this is 3 weeks in a row we have not seen her, so. Anybody who'd like to speak to this item? Next item,
Mr.
please.
Chair, I'd move approval of item 19.
Second.
Seconded by Roy, approved by John, motion by John. Questions? Next item, or call the vote, please.
Cook.
Yes.
Emery.
Yes.
Eskridge. Fellers.
Yes.
Gaylor Baird.
Yes.
Camp.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Moving into public hearing ordinances, second reading and related resolutions. Item 20 is approving amendments to lease arrangements related to Lincoln Lancaster County Public Building Commission facilities among the City of Lincoln, Lancaster County, and the Lincoln Lancaster County Building Commission, and to the issuance of the Building Commission's tax-supported lease rental revenue refunding bonds to refund its tax-supported lease rental bonds, Series 2004, and its tax-supported lease rental revenue bonds, Series 2005.
Good evening, Scott Keene, Emeritus Investment Corp., and Lauren Wismer with Gilmore and Bell. We are here this evening related to an ordinance that will allow us to proceed with the refunding of the Public Building Commission Series 2004 bonds that were issued to finance the County Health Department building, and the Series 2005 bonds that were actually refundings of the Commission's 1996 bonds. The 2004 bonds are outstanding in the amount of approximately $5.7 million, at an average rate of 4.83%. It's our expectation in the current market we'd be able to refund those bonds at a rate of approximately 2.3%. Those savings would accrue directly to both the county and the city, as this debt is treated as just a pass-through. The Building Commission issued the debt, but the amortization is paid by a share of the city and the county. The county's share is a portion of the financing that runs through 2016, and the city's portion runs through 2026. So we're looking to refund all of that debt, and the county will save approximately $33,000 per year, or $66,000 on a present value basis related to that financing, where the city will save approximately $65,000 per year for a present value savings of approximately $683,000. So fairly significant savings. The city's $65,000 will, on an annual basis, will really start in earnest in the next fiscal year. There'll be a modest amount of savings this year, but the bulk of it will really ramp up next year, next fiscal year, and through the remaining life of the bonds. The Series 2005 bonds are outstanding in the amount of approximately $17.4 million, again with an average rate of approximately 4.35% that could be refinanced in this market at approximately 2.3%. So those savings accrue to the Building Commission in the amount of approximately $140,000 per year, or approximately $1.4 million on a present value basis. So between the two financings, have an opportunity to save a little over $2.1 million. We're on a track to get the approval of the formal approval from the Building Commission at their meeting on December 9th. We are looking to ship documents off to the rating agencies actually this week and request those ratings prior to Christmas, the Christmas holiday, and look to go to market with the bonds through a negotiated sale with Emeritus the first full week of January. So as soon as investors are back in their seats and ready to buy, we'll be ready to go with this financing. With that, I might turn it over to Lauren, as there's been a bit of a change through the ordinance with the way that the lease agreements run between the Building Commission and the city, and the Building Commission and the county.
I'm substituting for Mike Rogers. He's out of town on business, and so you're stuck with me today. So I will try and explain the ordinance to you, which looks a lot like the other ordinances relating to the Public Building Commission. First and foremost, the statutes require that the city and the county approve the issuance of bonds by the Building Commission, so that is included in the ordinance in section number 4. The other item, which is probably more significant, is that we have decided after several years and a number of different site leases and lease agreements among the county, the city, and the Building Commission, that it would be nice to simplify all of that. So what we have done is to move to essentially a master site lease and a master lease agreement, since the provisions in those basic documents were pretty much the same through all the financings. So what this will enable the county and the city and the Building Commission to do is to make modifications by adding and subtracting properties to the legal descriptions, or the properties that are covered. Otherwise, the site lease will be essentially the same for all the transactions. The lease agreement will be essentially the same for all the transactions, and both of those documents reflect the current arrangements among the county, the city, and the Public Building Commission. If you have any questions about that, I will be happy to try and answer them for you.
Questions? Okay, thank you very much.
It'll simplify things going forward. We don't have to deal with a number of different documents.
Simple is good. Anybody would like to speak to this item? Staff questions? Next item, please.
Item 21 is a text amendment number 14010, amending Chapter 26.23 of the Lincoln Municipal Code, Development Standards, by amending Section 26.23.040 relating to widths of right-of-ways to increase the width of pedestrian way easements from 5 feet to 15 feet, amending Section 26.23.125 to set forth location and width requirements of pedestrian way easements, amending Section 26.23.130 relating to block sizes to add provisions relating to the measurement of block lengths, and amending Section 26.23.140 relating to lots to delete width requirements for residential lots servient and adjacent to pedestrian way easements.
Good evening, David Carey with the Planning Department. Here as the applicant for this item and the related item as item number 22. I just wanted to be clear on this item that the intent of this is to set up better the process and requirements to establish pedestrian easements in our developments. There's also provides clarity on how to measure the block lengths and to identify when those easements are required. I would like to note that there is general support for this from our process that was taken. There was a group put together that has worked approximately over the past 10 months, staff as well as members of our development community. That group worked hard and long on this to make sure that this made sense and identify those items that had that general consensus, and that is what you have before you today. Would also say that this information did get shared at the Mayor's Roundtable, as well as get sent out to our general email list, to our development community, and to the neighborhood associations. And I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I noticed that with the larger easement, the actual paved path would be on one property line rather than shared between, or one property rather than being shared between two properties.
Correct.
And so when, I don't know how neighbors managed this before, of course, to share maintenance, but they're responsible, the neighbors are responsible for snow removal just as they would be for a sidewalk in front of a house.
Right.
How does someone, is this just part of the property description? They know when they buy a home, it's outlined
Yes.
for them that this sidewalk belongs to them and they will have to clear it.
Correct. And the purpose for the identifying it for one property owner instead of splitting it down the middle is just to be clear about that, so that when those properties are purchased, it is understood and there's not that confusion on who is responsible. That was one of the things that we wanted to clear up with this effort.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Lauren?
Didn't this also come in response to a real situation we had in North Lincoln where there was a sidewalk that had high fences on either side of it, and it was difficult to clear the snow, and then also not necessarily a feeling of safety that neighbors had and were
Right.
avoiding using the actual,
Yeah,
I mean, it kind of took away from the purpose of the easement in itself.
Exactly. And this really is meant to lay out so that easements work better. People do feel, the intention is to make people feel safer and that they actually use more, and to avoid those types of situations where you have those cattle chute tall fences right up next to the sidewalk.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Roy?
Will this be applied only to new developments, or will it be applied to the example that Lyrian just gave?
The intent here is not to be retroactive, but would be applied moving forward for those new conditions.
My memory was that on that situation, though, that there was a violation because the fence was too high, and don't we have fence? Are there not? My recollection was there were fence requirements or site requirements on those easements to try to eliminate that very thing also.
There are limitations on the height of fences in general, which would be standalone in relation to these pedestrian easements. Really, the key here is to not allow the fences to be that close anymore, to have
Gotcha.
that more open feel.
Gotcha. Okay.
And just regarding the maintenance, the other issue was that in new developments, there are often homeowners associations, and the expectation is that in many of these circumstances, it would be on an outlot, and therefore would be maintained by the homeowners association, which seems like a more fair thing, perhaps, since the whole neighborhood gets the benefit of this, and it's often quite a burden for any one homeowner. I guess, both those rules, how likely is it that it'll be an outlot, I guess? Is that the usual case that we'll see in new developments?
Yeah, the expectation is that will become the norm. There will probably still be some limited situations where it still is used as an easement on private property, but the norm will be that it will be in an outlot, and the neighborhood association will be responsible for the maintenance and shoveling of snow. And that is, you're correct, a more fair way of applying the responsibilities of maintaining that.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody who'd like to speak to this item? Staff questions? Next item, please.
Just to correct, I'll officially read in item 22 as well, since they should have been read together. Text 22 is the text amendment number 14011, amending section 27.72.180 of the Lincoln Municipal Code relating to exceptions to height and lot regulations to revise the minimum separation between buildings and pedestrian way easements from 10 feet to 12.5 feet from the center line of the easement. Now continue.
Dave's gonna speak to that.
Oh, okay.
David Carey with the Planning Department. This, as I said earlier, is directly related to the previous item, and the main point here is to change the measurement from the center line to the center line of the easement instead of from the edge of the easement. And really what this does, it allows for the amount of unbuildable land to be the same as it is today as when we apply pedestrian easements. We're just dealing with different starting points, and this is what's needed to make sure that we have the same amount of buildable land on those lots.
Okay. Kind of discussed this one. Any other questions? Okay. Anybody who'd like to speak to this item? Staff questions? Next item, please.
I'll call together items 23, 24, and 25. 23 is approving the Ambassador and President 2 redevelopment agreement between the City of Lincoln and A&P 2 LLC for the renovation of apartment buildings generally located at 14th Street and Lincoln Mall. Item 24 is amending the fiscal year 13-14 CIP to authorize and appropriate $414,000 in TIF funds for the Ambassador and President 2 redevelopment project on property generally located at 14th Street and Lincoln Mall. Item 25 is authorizing the issuance of tax allocation bonds with a total not to exceed $414,000 for the City of Lincoln Ambassador and President 2 redevelopment project.
Members of the City Council, David Landis, Urban Development Department, the applicant in this case. This follows quickly on the heels of a plan amendment describing this project for you. You perhaps remember that we're talking about 71 units of affordable housing, generally quite small units, oftentimes a single bed in the, or rather a double bed, but a one-bedroom apartment. Servicing a portion of the community that is in need of affordable housing. These are people that oftentimes make 50% of the median income or even less of the county. The buildings themselves are old, handsome from the outside, but very seriously flawed inside in the heating and air conditioning units and the energy efficiency of the buildings. They also have serious facade problems and require $7 million of upkeep and maintenance. They've asked us to help to the score of $414,000, a missing piece of their funding, which was necessary given the fact that there were a number of previous commitments to provide the money necessary to do the rest of the project, but for which, when congressional action stopped the possibility of this coming from another source, The financing entities said that this needed to be made up, and so that the amount proved to be the same, and this was the one source that would allow this $7 million project to continue. It's expected to raise the tax value of the property by a couple of $1 million. If you were to look at the fact sheet provided to you by the planning department, you'll see that there are 14 ways in which the the comprehensive plan is quoted as being in congruence with the objectives of this project. The $414,000 will be spent basically for improvements in energy efficiency. And this is the location of the project. This is north. Here's City Mall, and here's the President Ambassador locations. But these are a couple of photographs, and let me see if I can do perhaps a close-up of one and then the other. Some of the windows inside this building. As you can see, these are windows that produce a huge energy loss inefficiency, and is in part necessary for the kinds of work that's being done. There is a rehabilitation of a historic facade. This has been to the Capitol Environs. They're very enthusiastic about work being done on the building. This is an old Art Deco facade piece which is to be restored and reinstalled on the location. We have a number of people from the organization itself which is doing this work, the developer, if you will. And we also have, in testimony about the bonds, Lauren Wismer, who, I might add, will be making, I believe, his final appearance in front of the City Council after having served us for many, many years in this capacity. It, I think, probably goes back even to the time of Jonathan Cook and John Camp, and maybe even beyond. I think it was just after the invention of dirt and just before you came on the council that Lauren began doing this work. We would ask for the adoption of this project. We think it serves downtown Lincoln well, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions? Dave, just refresh my memory. This is actually a nonprofit,
Well, it's a
on all
nonprofit.
lines.
It is a tax-paying entity.
Right.
And if it wasn't a tax-paying entity, there would be no ability to use
Right.
TIF. And they intend to continue to do that. This is a long-standing commitment. There are times, and you've heard of them, when there is a transition from a tax credit
Right.
program and it brings to an end and they have an option. But this organization has had no intention of doing that and no history of doing that.
It's actually, though, an interfaith group, is that correct? That was put together for this very purpose, is that not correct?
And they have had a long history of doing this for the city of Lincoln.
Okay, thank you. Anybody who'd like to speak to this item, come right on up, sir.
Good evening. Andrew Willis with Klein Williams, 233 South 13th Street, Suite 1900, representing ANP2, the developer, the redeveloper in this project. Again, this is about a month ago on October 27th, we looked at the redevelopment plan amendment for this project. It was approved, and now looking at the redevelopment agreement, we're kind of getting those final details and how the project is actually going to proceed. We're looking at $414,000 in tax immigrant financing revenue. That would be essentially used for three main purposes: the restoration of historic facades, the energy efficiency enhancements, and the rehabilitation of the historic courtyard. That is the primary use, and that. And then, and I think I'd be happy to answer any questions. I think it's probably the easiest way.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody who'd like to speak to this item? Anybody else who'd like to speak?
Lauren Wismer, Gilmore and Bell, we drafted the ordinance. I'll be happy to answer any questions. It should look very familiar to all of you. Any questions?
Questions?
Congratulations on being here so often.
Well, thank you. And contrary to Director Landis's inferences, I am not older than dirt.
He was saying Cook and I were.
I will
Can't fall in there.
I will tell you, when I started doing this kind of work, Jim Mallon was the city finance director, and I think Helen Busalis was the mayor, so that goes back a ways.
Congratulations.
Lauren, thank you for your service. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Anybody else who'd like to speak to this item? Staff questions? Next item, please.
Item 26, amending Chapter 10.34 of the Lincoln Municipal Code relating to parking meters by amending Section 10.34.030 to clarify methods of payment, amending Section 10.34.070 relating to illegal operation of a parking meter, and amendment Section 10.34.100 to clarify that coins only shall be collected from parking meters.
Anybody who'd like to speak to this item? It's fairly self-explanatory.
Okay.
Anybody who'd like to speak to this item? Staff questions? Next item, please.
Public hearing resolutions, item 27, approving an intergovernmental agreement between the Nebraska Department of Environmental Quality and the City of Lincoln regarding the implementation of the Stormwater Management Plan Grant Program.
Good evening. My name is Ben Higgins. I'm with Public Works. This agreement here is the 9th year in a row we're doing the same sort of agreement, this cooperative agreement. It's used for programs and projects for stormwater quality. The cost share is 20%, and that's $75,157. And it's from the Capital Improvement Program, and we use the bond monies that are set aside for water quality projects for it. We've done several projects over the past several years for this. It's been a real good program, and it's been a real good agreement with NDQ. If any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Questions? Thank you. Anybody who'd like to speak to this item? Staff questions? Next item, please.
Item 28, approving a contract agreement between the City of Lincoln, Lancaster County, Lincoln-Lancaster County Public Building Commission, and Cardiac Science Corporation for automated external defibrillators and related products and services pursuant to PSA contract number 14-100.
Good evening, Vince Major, City County Purchasing. This is a joint contract that we're piggybacking on with PSA out of Texas. Any questions you can answer?
Questions?
Yeah.
Carl.
Thank you. I don't know, Vince, there's a lot of stuff here. How many defibrillators are there, and how do we know where they're located?
I think every building has one in the city and the county. There's one right out in the hall here.
Okay.
In the box. You mean how many do we have totally, or how many we're ordering?
Total.
I don't know off the top of my head.
And they're identified so that people know inside a building where they would be located?
Generally, they're in the lobbies.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions? Thank you. Anybody who'd like to speak to this item? Staff questions? Next item, please.
I'll be calling together items 29 through 33. 29 is approving a professional services agreement between the City of Lincoln and the Nebraska Department of Roads for the use of federal transportation program funds for preliminary engineering for South 48th Street and Highway 2 traffic signal replacement. Item 30 is approving a professional services agreement between the City of Lincoln and the Nebraska Department of Roads for the use of federal transportation program funds for preliminary engineering for 48th and Calvert and 56th and Calvert traffic sign replacement. Item 31 is approving a professional services agreement between the City of Lincoln and the Nebraska Department of Roads for the use of federal transportation program funds for preliminary engineering for the South 17th Street Signal Project. Item 32 is approving a professional services agreement between the City of Lincoln and the Olson Associates for the use of federal transportation program funds to provide NEPA evaluation and documentation for the 48th Street and Highway 2 traffic signal replacement project. And item 33 is approving a supplemental agreement number 2 between the City of Lincoln and E&A Consulting Group for additional right-of-way staking necessary for land acquisition and utility relocation associated with the South 56th Street, Shadow Pines Drive to Old Cheney Road project.
Good evening, Thomas Schaefer here with Public Works and Utilities to answer any questions you may have. These are all agreements that, with the change in the federal process now, any of our projects that involve federal funds have to come before council. So these are several projects that we have ongoing in the community right now.
Anybody who'd like to speak to these items? Thank you. Anybody who'd like to speak to this item or these items? Staff questions? Next item, please.
Item 34, accepting the report of new and pending claims against the city and approving disposition of claims set forth for the period of October 16th through the 31st, 2014.
Anybody who'd like to speak to a claim? Okay. Staff questions? Next item, please.
Item 35, Comp Plan Conformance 14022, approving an amendment to the Antelope Valley Redevelopment Plan to add the 23rd and O Street project to rehabilitate and expand an existing retail building for a health clinic on approximately 2 acres of property generally located at 2301 O Street and the adjacent rights-of-way.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, Mark Hunziker appearing on behalf of the redeveloper, just to say we would like to have you place this on pending until December 8th for public hearing. We've got some details yet to be worked out before we're ready to go forward. And I understand it's been published for public hearing, so if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Okay. Anybody? We'll get to ask you the questions when we have the hearing, Mark. We just want to make sure if anybody was here to speak to it. Thank you. Questions? Okay, can we take a motion to?
I'd move we put this on pending until December 8th, 2014.
Second.
Seconded by Trent, moved by John. Discussion?
Clarification, it's for continued public hearing.
Thank you. Yes.
John Camp moved that?
Yes.
Okay.
Moved by Camp, seconded by Trent, and make sure it says continued public hearing, please. Okay.
Okay.
Call roll.
Cook.
Yes.
Yes. Carl?
Eskridge.
Yes.
Fellers.
Yes.
Gaylor Baird.
Yes.
Camp.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Next item?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Item 36, vacation 14008, vacating Southwest 31st Street from the south right-of-way line of West Denton Road to the north right-of-way line of West Covered Bridge Road.
Good evening. My name is Mike Eckert with Civil Design Group, here tonight on behalf of Rezac Pickering Williams LLC. This vacation of this right-of-way is kind of a strange one for you guys. It's in the 3-mile jurisdiction of the city, but the vacation and the monies go to the county, but we need both bodies to act on it. Real quickly, this exhibit in your packet showed the segment of the right-of-way that was previously platted and shown as, in the dashes there, to be a public right-of-way street. And there is a floodplain and a significant flow that goes through the treat area right here. And in an attempt to reduce the length of the box culvert, we could do that by converting this road to a private roadway, which it probably should have been in the first place, as it abuts. Most of it abutted the bridge's development here, which has all private roadways. And so we worked with our neighbors to the north and everybody that was impacted, and they had to sign the petition form saying they agreed with this and understood what was going on. And I think everybody was in favor of it because now the association out there can do the snow removal for this street. And this is our second access point at which we need to get going because we've reached the limitation on how many lots we could do. So I think it was a real win-win, and I appreciate planning working with us, as well as the county engineer, on allowing us to do this privately and save some money on the box culvert.
Questions? And Mike, you're comfortable with the amendment too?
Yes.
Okay, very well. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Anybody who'd like to speak to this item? Staff questions? Next item, please.
We can go into the voting session.
Very well.
Item 27, approving an intergovernmental agreement between the Nebraska Department of Environmental Quality and the City of Lincoln regarding the implementation of Stormwater Management Plan grant program. Introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Larian. Discussion. Call a roll.
Cook.
Yes.
Emery.
Yes.
Eskridge.
Yes.
Fellers.
Yes.
Gaylor Baird.
Yes.
Camp.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 28 is the contract agreement between the City of Lincoln, Lancaster County, Lincoln Lancaster County Public Building Commission, and the Cardiac Science Corp. For automated external defibrillators and related products and services. Introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Seconded by Larian. Discussion. Call a roll.
Cook.
Yes.
Emery.
Yes.
Eskridge.
Yes.
Fellers.
Yes.
Gaylor Baird.
Yes.
Camp.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 29 is approving the professional services agreement between the City of Lincoln and Nebraska Department of Roads for the use of Federal Transportation Program funds for preliminary engineering for South 48th Street and Highway 2 traffic signal replacement. Item 29 is introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Larian. Discussion. Call a roll.
Cook.
Yes.
Emery.
Yes.
Eskridge.
Yes.
Fellers.
Yes.
Gaylor Baird.
Yes.
Camp.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 30 is the professional services agreement between the City of Lincoln and NDOR for use of Federal Transportation Program funds for preliminary engineering for 48th and Calvert and 56th and Calvert traffic signal replacement. Introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Trent. Discussion. Call a roll.
Cook.
Yes.
Emery.
Yes.
Eskridge.
Yes.
Fellers.
Yes.
Gaylor Baird.
Yes.
Camp.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 31 is approving a professional services agreement between the City of Lincoln and the NDOR for the use of Federal Transportation Program funds for preliminary engineering for the South 17th Street Signal Project. Introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Trent. Discussion. Call a roll.
Cook.
Yes.
Emery.
Yes.
Eskridge.
Yes.
Fellers.
Yes.
Gaylor Baird.
Yes.
Camp.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 32 is approving a professional services agreement between the City of Lincoln and Olson Associates for the use of Federal Transportation Program funds to provide NEPA evaluation and documentation for the 48th Street and Highway 2 traffic signal replacement project. Introduced by Christensen.
So move. Second.
Second by John. Discussion. Call a roll.
Cook.
Yes.
Emery.
Yes.
Eskridge.
Yes.
Fellers.
Yes.
Gaylor Baird.
Yes.
Camp.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 33, approving supplemental agreement number 2 between the City of Lincoln and E&A Consulting Group for additional right-of-way staking necessary for land acquisition and utility relocation associated with the South 56th Street excuse me, Shadow Pines Drive to Old Cheney Road project. Item 33 is introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second by John. Discussion. We'll call the roll in a minute here. We're going to give you a drink of water. sometimes we can be a little bit overwhelming.
Thank you. Cook.
Yes.
Emery.
Yes.
Eskridge.
Yes.
Fellers.
Yes.
Gaylor Baird.
Yes.
Camp.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0. Item 34 is accepting the report of new and pending claims against the city and approving disposition of claims set forth for the period of October 16th through the 31st, 2014, introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second by Trent. Discussion. Call a roll.
Cook.
Yes.
Yes.
Eskridge.
Yes.
Fellers.
Yes.
Gaylor Baird.
Yes.
Camp.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0. And we already voted on item 35. Item 36, vacation 14008, vacating Southwest 31st Street from the south right-of-way line of West Denton Road to the north right-of-way line of West Covered Bridge Road. There is a motion to amend.
Let's put the main motion in place first, and then we'll come back with the motion to amend.
Okay, introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Trent. Now we can go with, you want to introduce the motion?
What's that?
How to do the motion?
Hereby move to amend with Bill number 14R293 on page 1, line 16, strike outlot A, E, F, G, and J, and insert in lieu of therefore the following language, outlots A and E.
Introduced by Trent.
Second.
Seconded by Roy. Discussion. Call a roll on the amendment, please.
Cook.
Yes.
Emery.
Yes.
Eskridge.
Yes.
Fellers.
Yes.
Gaylor Baird.
Yes.
Camp.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0.
Main motion. Discussion on the main motion. Call a roll.
Cook.
Yes.
Emery.
Yes.
Eskridge.
Yes.
Fellers.
Yes.
Gaylor Baird.
Yes.
Camp.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0. Item 37, authorizing the issuance of tax allocation bonds with a total not to exceed $533,354 for the City of Lincoln Schwarz Paper Building Redevelopment Project. Introduced by Camp.
So moved.
Second by Trent. Discussion.
There is.
Amendment, I'd move the motion to amend number 2, I believe it is. Do I have that correct?
If I can try to clarify, Tim C. from the City Attorney's Office. I think you have, before you have a motion to amend with a substitute ordinance that was prepared by Lauren Wismer, and then you have a motion to amend number 2, which is intended to make amendments to the substitute ordinance. So I think we would move the substitute ordinance, then move the second motion to amend, vote on the second motion to amend, and then vote on the substitute ordinance, and then back to the main motion. So
I move we adopt the substitute ordinance.
Second.
Moved by John, seconded by Roy.
And then I would move the motion to amend number 1 to the substitute amendment.
Moved by John, seconded by Carl. Discussion on the amendment. Seeing none, call a roll. Don't go far away, Tim. We may need you.
Cook.
Yes.
Emery.
Yes.
Eskridge. Fellers.
Yes.
Gaylor Baird.
Yes.
Camp.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0.
Discussion on the substitute amendment as amended. Call the roll.
Cook.
Yes.
Emery.
Yes.
Eskridge.
Yes.
Fellers.
Yes.
Gaylor Baird.
Yes.
Camp.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0.
One more vote.
Okay,
Can we amend it again?
you
No.
have somebody move the main motion?
No, it's already, it's.
Okay.
Yeah, we're done.
I'm sorry.
We're voting on the main motion
motion,
as amended by the substitute
Yeah.
that was
Moved
amended.
enough.
Discussion. Call the roll.
Cook.
Yes.
Emery.
Yes.
Eskridge.
Yes.
Fellers.
Yes.
Gaylor Baird.
Yes.
Camp.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0.
38.
Okay, item 38, approving the Schwarz Paper Building redevelopment agreement between the City of Lincoln and CBLINC LLC and Schwarz Paper Company relating to the redevelopment of property generally located at 747 O Street for commercial and residential space, introduced by Camp.
So moved.
Second by Trent. Discussion? I would just, I'm sorry, go ahead, Kate. Go ahead.
Say it's nice to see another example of mixed-use redevelopment in our community, one that actually isn't for student housing, but will be for other populations, and which will add parking to an area of town where it's obviously needed.
Anybody else who'd like to speak on this item? I would also say I think it's a win-win for the city. That building doesn't necessarily work for Schwarz anymore, and it gives us an opportunity to save the architecture, and I think it'll be a win-win for everybody. Call a roll, please.
Cook.
Yes.
Emery.
Yes.
Eskridge.
Yes.
Fellers.
Yes.
Camp.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 39, amending the fiscal year 13-14 CIP to authorize and appropriate $533,354 in TIF funds for the Schwarz Paper Building redevelopment project on property generally located at 747 O Street, introduced by Camp.
So moved.
Second by Roy. Discussion. Call a roll.
Cook.
Yes.
Emery.
Yes.
Eskridge.
Yes.
Fellers.
Yes.
Gaylor Baird.
Yes.
Camp.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Ordinances first reading are items 40 through 44. Resolutions on first reading are items 45 through 53. Pending list date certain is item that is adopting the Lincoln Electric System annual budget for 2015 to become effective January 1st, 2015. That will have action December 8th. The pending list is comprised of the following items, 55 through 59. And this is an open mic session. Anyone wishing to address the council on a matter not on this agenda and not planned to appear on a future agenda may do so at this time.
Anybody who'd like to speak, please come forward. Absolutely.
My name is Nancy Packard. I live at 3037 Sewell Street. And I'd like to talk to you about trees. I could talk to you about trees almost any time of the year, but I picked now because of a situation I was in almost 40 years ago. My husband and I bought our first home, and while it had many areas of improvement needed, it had a nice row of trees along the street. The next year we learned those trees were elm trees that had Dutch elm disease along Elm Street, and so we spent Thanksgiving about 40 years ago taking out a lot of elm trees. I want to talk to you about that because I think I am like probably most people in that I for most of my life haven't known anything about trees and which kinds to buy. So after we lost those trees, it was fun to go to nurseries and, you know, whatever were the box stores in those days and pick up this tree that had this attractive feature and that tree. But let's see, we bought some river birch and we bought Scots pine later on. Different kinds of maples, silver maples, lots of trees, and nearly all of them died. They weren't suited to Nebraska. We were living in Hastings at the time. And also they weren't what we needed. We needed shade. We were living in a big house without an air conditioning system. So we needed shade, and pretty much later we started to put in some real trees. I bring that up because of the ash borer that's headed our way. You probably all know about it. It's in Kansas, and I think it's in Kansas, Missouri, Colorado, maybe all the states around us. When it hits, it takes maybe 3 years for it to completely decimate all the ash trees of all species. It can be remediated at, I think, about $100 a year. So there aren't many trees that are probably going to be saved after it becomes present in Lincoln. I'm concerned about all the people who won't be prepared to act on this. You know, there are some streets, I think, that are almost solely ash trees. Lots of beautiful ash trees on lots. It'll be an expensive thing, and it'll be a depressing thing to see so much of our good trees gone. I'm fortunate enough to live near a really pretty residential area full of magnificent old oaks, particularly, and probably 100 years ago old, many of them. And I watch as some are taken out, and not enough are being planted to continue that stand into the future. Let's see. I wanted to tell you how do we know which trees to plant. In preparation for coming here, I went to Omaha. I learned that OPPD has a little arboretum, do you know this, of trees, just a great representative sample of native trees, historical trees that have been, seed collected from, say, Mark Twain's cave and from the east. Its prime purpose is, it's right by an electricity substation. And its prime purpose is to show what kind of trees can be planted under wires, so the trees are all marked with their height, and they're marked so that people know which ones can be planted where. Anyway, it's just a gorgeous little park. It's at about 106th and Blondo Street. I really encourage you all to think of going there to see it. It's by, let's see, what is the interstate that is there? 680, I think, is very close. It's just a roaring traffic area, but it's peaceful, and really is a remarkable place. You know, when you go to buy a tree, you see a Colorado blue spruce and another blue spruce, and you don't know which one you'd like. You can see full-size specimens of all these trees and decide which one is a good one for you. So that's one source, and another source is Justin Everson. I don't know if you know him. He's with Nebraska Statewide Arboretum, and he's a real tree expert. He's helped me. I'm doing some tree buying for some areas, and he's helped me to know exactly which ones are good choices and which aren't, and why. His primary focus is on native trees, and you probably all know why we want native trees, because they've come through, hundreds of years in some cases, and have survived the varieties of weather conditions in Nebraska, and they're more likely to go into posterity. I don't know if this is your job, but we need to help people to be foresighted about trees, and I don't know how we do that. We need people to be thinking ahead. And I have a quote, a Chinese proverb that says that. It says, "The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now." And then I have a quote from Warren Buffett, who said, maybe you've heard this one, "Someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago." So, thank you for your attention. I pay attention to your proceedings by way of the newspaper, and I admire the work you do. I think I'm real happy to be living in Lincoln. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else who'd like to speak?
Mr. Chair, seeing no one coming forward, I'd move for adjournment and also remind folks that we'd like you to have a very happy and safe Thanksgiving. And we will be back a week from next Monday, so it'll be December 8th is our next meeting.
So if you come next week looking for us, we will not be here.